And before we get going, is this
Oh,
okay?
sorry. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 99 of In Vault, a Carolina Panthers podcast. I am your host, Ryan Smith, and it is an exciting time here in the Carolinas. Panthers, 49ers, Monday Night Football coming up on the Bay Area Monday night there in Levi Stadium. Joining me today for a Panthers-Niners preview, he is in his 31st season covering the 49ers. 49ers pregame live on NBC Sports Bay Area. Let's welcome Matt Maiocco to the podcast. Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's great to meet you. I've heard you from afar on various podcasts and different platforms, obviously covering the Niners and the Bay Area there. So excited to have you on since the Niners are the Panthers' opponent this week. And let's start here. What is your kind of 4,000 foot view of the Niners this season, considering they've had a bunch of injuries, a quarterback injury that's now brought Purdy's back, but a lot going on there out in the Bay Area from afar?
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult team to get a read on. They started the season very well, winning three of their first three games,
Yep.
and then since then it's just been there's injuries specifically on the defensive side now.
Yeah.
Earlier there were injuries on the offensive side and the defensive side, with George Kittle going out in the middle of the first game and he missed 5 games. Brock Purdy through the first 10 games of the season he missed 8 games. The wide receiving core hasn't been real stable with a lot of injuries there. The one guy that stayed healthy that was the biggest concern, even heading into week one when he showed up on the injury report, was Christian McCaffrey. And
Yes.
he's not only stayed healthy, he has absolutely thrived. I'm sure his yards per rushing attempt aren't where it has been in the past, but running, receiving, he's doing it all. And the 49ers are in a very good spot because of him, because of Mac Jones coming in off the bench and playing well. But the offense is kind of rounding into form. They had their best game last week, 41 points against the Arizona Cardinals. But the defense is, I think, the major concern for this team and probably puts a much lower ceiling on what this team can do because without Bosa, their best pass rusher, Nick Bosa, was lost in week 3, out for the year with a torn ACL. Without Fred Warner, one of the best, if not, well, he might even be inarguably the best inside linebacker in the game. He's been out since week 6. The 49ers defense hasn't looked the same. They can't get consistent pressure on the quarterback. And so, I think they're still a playoff caliber team. Carolina comes to town. They're thinking that they're a playoff caliber team, and this was a game that they need to win probably to continue on that path. And I think for the 49ers, it's a game they need to win to show that they can string a couple of wins together and end up in the postseason again.
Yeah. You mentioned Christian McCaffrey, old friend CMC from North Carolina, Charlotte, Carolina Panthers, draft pick number 8 overall back in 2017. Real quickly, I'll revisit that trade in 2022. He was traded for second, third, and fourth round picks in the 2023 and 2024 fifth round draft pick. Obviously, I believe you were around at that time with the Bay Area. What do you remember about that trade really quickly and just kind of how that went down and how he's been with San Francisco since he left Carolina? Because he's been, he stayed healthy for a good more portion of his seasons in Charlotte, and then he had a good portion that he was injured. So it was
Mhm.
very off and on when he was on the field.
Yeah, I wonder if those years in Charlotte. I wonder if the team was in contention for those years, if he could have gotten back out there and played those years. I don't know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
what I do remember is the 49ers were there that season fairly early. I think maybe week 4 or 5 of the
Week 5.
2022,
Yeah.
week 5 of the 2022 season. And what was it? It was less than 2 weeks later. It was like 10 days later, 11
Yeah.
days later, that trade is completed. And yeah, I didn't necessarily think that the 49ers were going to be in that market. Turns out that, I know the Rams were in it, the Bills were in it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I do remember some people thinking, oh man, that's a really high price to pay for a running back
Yeah, but
that
he's good.
that hasn't been on the field all that much. And quite clearly, Kyle Shanahan had a history with McCaffrey's dad and knew Christian and John Lynch with the Stanford connection there. I looking back on it, I remember their first draft um, was one where I think it was their first draft, um, where there was some talk, wow, gosh, would the 49ers think about taking Christian McCaffrey? I think they had a really high draft pick at that point. Um, and knowing the Shanahan history, both Mike and Kyle, it doesn't matter who their running back is. It seems like they always get production out of that running back. But at the time, it was like, wow, that's I know he's a good player, but can he stay healthy? And then it wasn't but his second game with the 49ers where he had the 49ers go to LA and they pull off, I'm pretty sure that was an upset against the Rams with McCaffrey scoring a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and even threw a touchdown pass in that game. And from that point forward, I don't think anybody has ever talked about the draft pick compensation that was sent to Carolina to
Yeah.
get Christian McCaffrey. And of course, the 2023 season where he was absolutely phenomenal and 49ers go to the Super Bowl and become the first team in Super Bowl history, first team in NFL history to take the lead twice in the fourth quarter and once in overtime and still lose.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that they've been lacking or missing while Christian McCaffrey has been here, just a Super Bowl title.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some keys to the game and players to watch here as the Panthers and 49ers square off on Monday Night Football the first time. The Panthers been on Monday Night Football in quite some time, 2023 against New Orleans, week two, Bryce Young's rookie year, the last time they were on Monday Night Football. So it's been about 2 years in change. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball for the Panthers, defensive side for the 49ers. For me, for the key to the game for the Panthers on the offensive side, I'm going to make it obvious. It's riding Rico Dowdle into the ground with this rushing defense. But don't count on him for explosive runs. We got to make Bryce Young a play action work against this defense. I mean, Jacoby Brissett passed for all those yardage last week against this Niners
Yeah.
defense, and both the Panthers and 49ers rank, I think, in the bottom two in pass rush win rate. So both of these quarterbacks should have plenty of time on Monday night to throw the ball. But specifically on offense, the Panthers run the ball with Rico Dowdle, and then that sets up the play action for Bryce Young to chuck it down the field to these guys like Tedero McMillan, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, and see if they can get an early lead and starting fast. But
Yeah.
specifically, my player to watch on offense would be both Rico Dowdle and can Bryce Young, specifically at quarterback, continue what he did last week against Atlanta, which was by far, Matt, his best game as a professional.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. He threw for 450, no, 440 something
48 yards.
or 48 yards. And meanwhile, in Arizona, Jacoby Brissett is throwing for 452 yards, I think it was, against
Yes.
the 49ers. So completed an NFL record 47 passes in that game. And, we could say, some of that came late when the 49ers had a big lead and they were just, giving up the underneath pass. But 49ers have had a difficult time defending the pass. And so I think what you said is probably pretty much spot on. If they can run the ball successfully, stay out of those third and long situations, do play action, get some easy completions. What the 49ers will try to do probably they're Robert Sala's been in this mode of how do you generate a pass rush and how do you try to make things more complex for the opposing quarterback. And I think a lot of times what's happened is that they've ended up making it too complex for their own defense. And so
Right.
guys running wide open around the field. So Last week, the 49ers generated some takeaways, which they haven't done. So you had the good with the bad. I do grades after the game, and I'm like, okay, the 49ers forced three takeaways with their pass defense, two interceptions, and then a punch out on a fumble after a pass completion. But they gave up 47 completions and 452 yards to a team that didn't have their top two wide receivers. How are you supposed to grade that? So, I think probably the takeaways, supersede all the yards because Arizona only scored 22 points in that game. But for Carolina, it's do all the stuff that Arizona did without the giveaways.
Right.
And if they do that, then maybe you're looking at a little bit of a shootout. But there's one matchup that might kind of deserve watching, and we'll see how the Panthers play it, how the 49ers play it. But 49ers have their top cornerback, their top defensive back is Diamador Lenore, and he's somebody who signed a big contract about a year ago, and he's kind of an unassuming captain, but a captain nonetheless on this team. And I don't know that people talk about him on a national scale like maybe they could or should.
Sure.
So I know I just spoke to him for 15 minutes for an interview that's going to be running on my channel, NBC Sports Bay Area. And I think he's looking at this as a possible game where he's hoping that McMillan lines up across from him. He's hoping that the ball comes their way quite a bit. He says, he's never going to be one to back down from a challenge. So that's one to keep an eye on. That I'm sure the Monday Night Crew will be talking a lot about McMillan as they should, the number 8 pick in the draft and the guy who's put up really good numbers. So this is an opportunity, I think, for Lenore, who came into the NFL as kind of an under the radar kind of guy to maybe make his mark and get more on the national scene with a big game on Monday night.
And then switching over to the Panthers on defense for Niners when they have the ball. For me, it's simply like this. The Panthers safety, Trayvon Morningwig, former Las Vegas Raider who came over at free safety, he's going to be playing, I think, a lot more in the box against the guys like CMC, Brian Robinson Jr. Can he, with the linebackers at Carolina, Trayvon Wallace, Christian Roseman, both missing practice today. Not sure if Carolina's going to have one or both of their starting linebackers. That's obviously not great news considering you have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle on the other side. But for me, it's someone like Trayvon Morey playing against in the box against those runs, and then really not letting Brock Purdy get a deep and intermediate passing game going to guys like Jawan Jennings, guys like Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, obviously over the middle. Panthers cannot cover the tight end to save their life. So George Kittle, I think, is actually the player to watch on the 49ers side, I think, rather than CMC as far as having a bigger day because of the Panthers' lack of success against the tight end.
Well, yeah, if they're having a difficult time covering the tight end, then this could be a long day. I'm sure they'll do a lot of different things, a lot of different coverages, try to mix things up on them. But Brock Purdy coming back looked sharp, and it was the decision making, it was all the pre-snap stuff, it was getting them into the right play. I mean, just for us who watch the 49ers and watch Brock Purdy take a lot of this stuff for granted. But, just early in this game, a play where he recognizes something in the defense of the Cardinals. He checks into the right play. It's, basically a can of the original call and goes to the second call in the huddle and ends up, getting George Kittle singled up on a linebacker for a 30-yard touchdown. So it's those kinds of things where when you see 49ers guys running wide open, whether it's Kittle or Pearsall or Jennings or even McCaffrey, a lot of times it's because the quarterback is using his brain to dictate those matches and to find the mismatch and to get the ball to the right guy, to get into the right play. There was a play last week where McCaffrey scored on I think it was a 9-yard touchdown pass. It was wide open, and it wasn't even what the play was. McCaffrey saw something. Purdy saw the same thing. McCaffrey broke off his route, did something different. Um, Purdy anticipated that was going to happen, kept his eyes open, and threw the pass to McCaffrey. So there's some pretty good football brains on the 49ers offensive side, led by Kyle Shanahan, the head coach and play designer and play caller, but also the quarterback, the tight end, the running back. Those guys, they know what they're doing. And this is the healthiest that the 49ers offense has been all season. And so we'll see, while the defense is kind of staggered around and stumbled because of the injuries, the offense is probably going to have to win some shootouts. And so that's what they showed signs of being able to do last week against the Cardinals.
If the 49er fans who might be listening to this podcast or will listen to it, if they're not familiar with the name Derek Brown, they will get familiar on Monday night. Derek Brown having an all-pro season. Arguably, if I would say if he played in a bigger market, he would probably have more recognition. But he has been featured on Brian Baldinger, former offensive lineman at Duke in the NFL. His breakdowns pretty much every week. So 49er fans, watch out for Derek Brown on the defensive line heading off against Brock Purdy. Matt Maiocco is my guest today here on Inside the Vault. Panthers 49ers coming up on Monday Night Football from Levi Stadium there in Santa Clara. Matt, as we wind down, last two for you, and I'll get you out of here. McCaffrey recently spoke today with the Charlotte media, kind of, some people are calling it a revenge game. Some people are calling it other things. McCaffrey, essentially in the call today said, he talked about obviously the trade being a weird week, said he never got to say goodbye to his Panther teammates that back 3 years ago, but he says he takes every week extremely seriously, which I have no doubt, and Panther fans who see McCaffrey all those years in Carolina also know that as well. Do you sense any extra motivation? Obviously, he may not say it publicly, of course, but thoughts on Christian McCaffrey's mindset going into this matchup against his old team for the first time in
Yeah,
3 years?
I would say there's got to be, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
got to
of
be
course.
some sort of, and just the fact that this is the two fan bases that'll be, watching this game are the two fan bases who know the most about Christian McCaffrey, and that he knows more of those people who'll be watching this game than any other game he could possibly play. And so, yes, the people who made the decision that the Panthers, the best decision for the Panthers moving forward was
They're gone.
to trade, they're all gone. So, there might not be that animosity or that kind of feeling like, boy, you thought you were better off without me. I'm going to show you. But still, it's got to, seeing that uniform and getting out there. And I don't know how many of his former teammates are still around. Probably not too many.
Seven in total. There was an article done on that. Seven
Yeah.
total.
So, I mean, he's got to feel that way. Now, what's interesting is in I don't know when this ended, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that. It used to be standard around the NFL, not standard, it used to be mandatory that a a visiting player and the visiting coach would always have a conference call with the other team's media
Mhm.
leading into the game.
Yep.
And the NFL abolished that several years ago. I know, the Carolina Panthers media requested that, McCaffrey, would he join us on I think it was a Zoom call.
Correct.
And, McCaffrey thought about it. And I thought it was a very neat thing that he doesn't seek the spotlight,
No.
so for him to do a media obligation that he doesn't have to do, I think speaks to the respect that he has for that organization. And let's face it, I mean, at some point he might be going back there to see his name in the
You
Ring of Honor.
you say well, that's a whole other podcast. We don't have time for that. That's the other thing Panther fans, have been talking about. Come when he retires, is he going to retire a Niner? Is he going to retire a Panther? Yeah, that we don't have time to get into that, obviously.
Well, he'll retire as both. I guarantee you, because he might find his name in the Ring of Honor here with the 49ers.
Yeah.
And so, I know John Lynch is in two different Ring of Honors.
Oh, that's true.
Um,
Yeah.
and so no, I think that um you don't have to pick sides. And,
Yeah.
if he goes into the Hall of Fame, there's no such thing in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as going in as a member of a team.
Sure.
This isn't baseball where you have to decide which hat you're going to wear,
Right.
which
Right.
logo.
Yeah.
It's just if he's in the Hall of Fame, it's Christian McCaffrey who's in
Right.
the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
And I think that both fan bases and both organizations will fully embrace him as they should.
Yeah. Well, do you have a prediction? Do you have a thought on how this game is going to play out? My personal prediction is a shootout of some sorts. What kind of Bryce Young will we get? I don't know. I'm thinking somewhere in the 27-20, 27-24 range. Probably San Francisco being the home team, I'll give them the victory. But I'm not going to be surprised, Matt, if Carolina does win
Yeah.
this game at any sort. I mean, the defenses both will have time to throw the ball, I think, or both quarterbacks, rather, will have time to throw the ball. And Bryce Young has more game winning drives than any other quarterback as of last week since he entered the league, and he has the opportunity to steal close contests.
Yeah, I mean, I won't make a prediction, but I'd say this, that I don't know what the 49ers are. They're up and down. Ever since Nick Bosa's injury in week 3, they're loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. They haven't put two games together. I mean, I guess I would expect their pattern together, they'll lose this game. So I don't know what the 49ers are. I think that they're vulnerable. I think they can beat just about any team in the league. I also think they can lose to about any team in the league. And so I don't know. I think it's gonna be an exciting game because the Panthers are going to be feeling it, playing a Monday night game and knowing the national spotlight is on. And I think they're a desperate team. I think to a degree the 49ers are, although every other week they don't play like it. I'm really curious to see how it looks, how Bryce Young plays, how the 49ers defense is able to defend him, and if the 49ers offense can take that next step. So I got to be honest with you. When the schedule came out, I was like, why are they putting that on Monday Night Football? And now,
Christian McCaffrey versus Carolina. That's the only thing I
yeah,
thought that made sense to me. I'm like, oh, it's Christian McCaffrey on in prime time. Oh boy, that's if he's
yeah.
healthy enough to be there. And then of course he is. Of course, it's
Yeah, and I didn't know that that was going to be like this national line. Now it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's a game with definite playoff implications, and I think the Panthers. I think both teams need this.
absolutely.
Panthers need it. 49ers need it. I almost. I mean, the 49ers schedule isn't particularly difficult after this game. They go to Cleveland, but that would be a short week going to Cleveland against really good defense. Then they have the
Right,
bye week, then they
right.
play Tennessee. But I think the 49ers need to pick up every win they can get along the way. And for the Panthers, who are already on the outside looking in that playoff picture, they need it. So I'd say probably both teams are kind of desperate.
Yeah.
Usually you go with the team that's the most desperate. In this case, I think they both all kind of are.
You could argue that number one hardest schedule down the stretch is the Carolina Panthers. So yes, they
Yeah.
definitely need
Yeah.
this game. This is probably the second easiest game on their schedule to the Saints. I mean, they play the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Bucks twice to finish the season. So
Yeah.
you could argue the 49ers are the second easiest game of the six remaining. Last thing, this is not a question for you, just a statement. For 49er fans who may listen to this, pay close attention to the coin toss. Carolina Panthers are 5-0 this year when they've won the coin toss and 0-5 when they've lost.
And I'm
There we go. All right. Little internet there. I got you back. Well, Matt
oh,
Maiocco has been my guest today
oh,
here on Inside the Vault, episode number 99. We'll look forward to Panthers, Niners on Monday Night Football in Santa Clara. Matt, thank you so much for coming on and tell us where we can find you.
okay. You can find me on all social media at Maiocco, Maiocco, NBCS. Also have a YouTube channel, Matt Maiocco NFL, where I talk all things 49ers every day. So check that out as well. So thanks so much for having me and enjoy the game Monday night.
Absolutely. And that'll wrap up this episode of Inside the Vault, a Carolina Panthers podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and we will see you next time.